Awakening to our real nature, the power of Christ, consciousness. Have you ever felt like you're wearing a mask? Like there's a deeper, truer version of yourself waiting to be discovered beneath layers of expectations, conditioning, and fear? I recently had the profound privilege of interviewing Chandra Franklin, a visionary spiritual teacher whose work on Christ consciousness is transforming how we understand our divine nature and potential. Chandra isn't just another spiritual guide. She's a revolutionary force who has helped thousands reclaim their authentic power by reconnecting them with their divine essence. Her ability to translate ancient mystical wisdom into practical transformative action has made her one of the most important spiritual voices of our time. What struck me most about Chandra's teachings wasn't just their spiritual depth, but their practical power to heal, transform, and liberate. Her work bridges ancient wisdom with contemporary challenges, offering a pathway to wholeness that transcends religious boundaries while honoring their essence. The truth she illuminates is both simple and revolutionary. We've been looking outside ourselves for what has always existed within. Think about that for a moment. We've been taught to seek salvation, worth, and validation externally when the divine spark, what Khandra calls our real nature, has been within us all along. It's like spending your life searching for water while standing in an ocean. This isn't just spiritual theory. It's a radical reframing that changes everything about how we move through the world, lead our businesses, heal our communities, and ultimately find peace within ourselves. Let me share what I've learned from Chandra about Christ consciousness and why it matters, especially for those of us who've been caring too much, trying too hard, and forgetting who we truly are beneath all that doing. Christ consciousness isn't about religion, it's about awakening. It's recognizing that the divine nature exemplified by Jesus isn't something reserved for one historical figure, but a state of being available to each of us. It's about transcending the boundaries that separate us from our true essence and from each other. As Chandra explains it, this consciousness represents a spiritually evolved state where we recognize our inherent divinity. We awaken to our real nature, beings who are intrinsically connected to the divine source of all life. But here's where it gets really interesting and deeply personal. This understanding fundamentally shifts the power dynamic in our spiritual lives. No longer are we dependent on external authorities to connect with the divine. The kingdom of heaven, as Jesus himself said, is within you, within me, within all of us. That's not just comforting, it's revolutionary, especially for those who felt excluded from traditional religious spaces, especially for those who've been told they're somehow less worthy of divine connection, especially for those who have been carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders because they never believed they could put it down. I want to share three powerful stories that illustrate how this awakening to our real nature transforms not just individuals, but communities and organizations. The first comes from a Black female entrepreneur who founded a wellness company after burning out in corporate America. Like many of us, she had achieved external success but felt spiritually depleted. She faced the double barriers of being both Black and female in the business world: limited access to capital, few mentors who looked like her, and the constant internal struggle with self worth shaped by societal narratives. Her turning point came during what spiritual traditions call the dark night of the soul, a period of profound crisis where conventional solutions failed her. It was in this darkness that she discovered practices aligned with Christ consciousness. Meditation focused on oneness, daily affirmations of her inherent divinity, and radical forgiveness towards herself and others. The transformation wasn't just personal, as she shifted from a scarcity mindset to one of divine abundance. Her company began to thrive. She led from authenticity rather than fear, creating an inclusive culture that empowered employees at every level. The business didn't just break profitability records, it launched community programs focused on holistic well being for marginalized groups. Her story inspired other Black professionals nationwide to reimagine leadership through spiritual empowerment rather than conformity or survival mode. This wasn't about adding spiritual practices to her business strategy. It was about fundamentally recognizing who she already was, divine, worthy, and enough, and leading from that truth. The second story takes us into a community healing initiative led by Black faith leaders who were concerned about youth affected by violence. These pastors noticed something troubling. Young people were disconnected from traditional church spaces, perceiving them as judgmental or irrelevant. Trust between generations had fractured. Instead of doubling down on dogma, these leaders embraced the core of Christ consciousness, universal love that transcends religious boundaries. They reframed their approach around inclusivity, offering meditation circles focused on inner divinity, regardless of denomination or faith background. The results were remarkable. Youth engagement soared as participants reported increased self esteem, newfound hope about their futures, and willingness to forgive past harms, a living expression of unconditional love in action. The program became recognized citywide as innovative spiritual activism, bridging generational divides while reducing recidivism rates among at risk youth. What began as a local initiative became a model replicated nationally for faith based organizations seeking relevance through authentic service rooted in awakened consciousness. These leaders didn't abandon their faith traditions, they discovered their essence. The third story is perhaps the most relatable for many of us. A young Black professional struggled privately with anxiety about belonging in career spaces that rarely reflected his identity or values. He battled imposter syndrome amid workplace microaggressions while feeling pressure to conform outwardly without finding inner fulfillment. His journey shifted when he discovered teachings about Christ consciousness online. He began daily reflection practices centering his worthiness as both fully human and fully divine, embracing the paradoxes within himself. He let go of rigid expectations, choosing instead loving kindness toward himself first. As his confidence grew, colleagues noticed new openness radiating from him. Performance reviews praised his innovation and authenticity. Eventually, he launched affinity groups supporting other underrepresented professionals' journeys toward wholeness at work, creating a ripple effect that started simply by waking up to his true nature each day. His vulnerability sparked wider conversations about mental health and spirituality among peers who had also felt isolated before witnessing his transformation. He didn't change who he was, he discovered who he'd always been. These stories reveal something profound about Christ consciousness that Chandra Franklin emphasizes. It's not about becoming something other than yourself. It's about recognizing who you've always been beneath the conditioning, beneath the masks, beneath the survival strategies. This recognition empowers us by affirming that divinity isn't reserved for special figures or institutions. It's accessible within each of us right now. Embracing this awareness encourages personal transformation, healing, and the courage to live from a place of unconditional love and unity with all life. The core invitation from Chandra's teachings is to embody the qualities associated with Christ: unconditional love, radical forgiveness, compassion for self and others, and alignment with spirit in everyday actions. These principles aren't just spiritually sound, they are transformative for business leaders, entrepreneurs, parents, healers, and anyone striving for impact rooted in authenticity. I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds beautiful, but how do we actually live this way in a world that seems designed to keep us disconnected from our divine nature? How do we maintain this consciousness when facing real challenges like systemic oppression, financial pressure, relationship conflicts, or health crises? Chandra offers 3 practical steps that anyone can implement, regardless of their spiritual background. First, pause daily, even briefly, to reflect inwardly on your own divine potential. This isn't complicated spiritual practice. It can be as simple as asking yourself, who am I beneath all my roles and responsibilities? What is my real nature? Then sitting quietly to listen for the answer that comes not from your conditioning, but from your essence. Second, practice radical self love and forgiveness. Notice when you're being harsh with yourself or holding on to resentment towards others. Ask yourself what would change if you viewed yourself and everyone involved through the lens of divine perfection, not excusing harmful behavior, but recognizing the wounded humanity beneath it. Third, lead your work and life decisions guided first by unity consciousness rather than fear based thinking. Before making important choices, check in. Am I acting from separation or connection, from fear or love, from scarcity or abundance? Then choose the path that honors the divinity in yourself and others. These small shifts help you wake up more fully into your real nature, the very heart of what it means to embody Christ consciousness today. What I find most powerful about Chandra Franklin's teachings is that they don't ask us to adopt new beliefs. They invite us to shed the illusions that have kept us from recognizing what's already true, that we are, in our essence, expressions of divine love in human form. This isn't spiritual bypassing. It's not about ignoring real problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's about accessing the wellspring of wisdom, compassion, and power that exists within us, especially when facing life's greatest challenges. For Black women who've carried the weight of the strong Black woman narrative, Christ consciousness offers permission to be both strong and soft, to lead and to rest, to serve and to receive. It's an invitation to drop the cape of the superwoman and embrace the crown of the divine feminine that's been yours all along. For anyone who's felt excluded from traditional religious spaces, this consciousness offers a direct connection to the divine that doesn't require intermediaries or institutions. Your worthiness isn't earned, it's innate. For leaders seeking to create more compassionate, innovative organizations, this awakening provides a foundation for decision making that honors the humanity and divinity in every stakeholder. As Chandra Franklin's work reveals, Christ consciousness isn't about following a set of rules or adopting a specific religion. It's about remembering who you are beneath all the forgetting. It's about awakening to your real nature as a being of light, love, and limitless potential. The invitation before us isn't to become something we're not, it's to recognize what we've always been, divine beings having a human experience, here to love, to create, to heal, and to awaken others through our own awakening. So I challenge you today, don't just listen to these words and nod in agreement. Don't just file this away as an interesting spiritual concept. Take one radical step towards recognizing your divine nature before the sun sets today. Look in the mirror and speak to the divinity within you. Forgive someone you've been holding resentment toward, including yourself. Make one decision from a place of love rather than fear. Because the world doesn't just need more people who believe in the divine, it needs people who embody it. People who recognize that the Christ consciousness that transformed the world through Jesus isn't something to worship from afar, it's something to embody here and now. And in that embodiment lies not just your personal liberation, but the power to heal our divided communities, transform our organizations, and perhaps create the world we know in our hearts is possible. The divine isn't waiting for you somewhere else. It's waiting for you to recognize it's been here all along, within you, as you, waiting to be expressed through your unique voice, your unique gifts, your unique life. Will you answer that call? Will you awaken to your real nature? The world is waiting,